On December 5, 1945, on a clear day, a group of 5 U.S. Navy torpedo bombers, Flight 19, took off from a base in Florida for a training flight. The conditions were perfect: an experienced instructor, a well-practiced route, and reliable equipment. But after a few hours, everything went off course. The pilots began transmitting strange messages over the radio. "We don't know where we are. Everything looks strange. Even the ocean. The compass isn't working." The radio contact became less and less clear until it was lost completely. None of the pilots or the 24 crew members ever returned. The military immediately launched a search operation. For 5 days, more than 200,000 square miles of ocean was searched, but not a single piece of wreckage was found. The official investigation could not reach a single conclusion for a long time. Initially, the report stated the cause was unknown, but years later it was revised. Navigational error, equipment failure, and fuel exhaustion. Nevertheless, the complete absence of wreckage aroused suspicion and gave rise to myths. This story became the foundation of the Bermuda Triangle legend. But the strangest thing happened a little later. The sixth plane disappeared as well. When Navy Command received a report of an emergency with Flight 19, a PBM Mariner rescue plane was urgently dispatched. There were 13 people on board. The goal was simple: to locate the squadron and provide support. However, 20 minutes after takeoff, this plane also disappeared from radar. Communication was lost without any warning. The crew of the aircraft carrier Solomon, which was nearby, reported a flash and a huge fireball in the sky. This detail played a key role in the investigation. It was later discovered that the PBM Mariner had a notorious reputation. Its fuel tank was considered unstable and prone to explosions. The official version is an explosion in the air. Nevertheless, the absence of wreckage once again became a cause for suspicion. People wondered how 2 incidents could happen almost simultaneously and in the same area. This case became the second blow in one day and reinforced the mystique surrounding the region. And while the technicians blamed the aircraft's design, supporters of the anomaly saw this as confirmation of their theory. But such cases had happened before. The ghost of the Cyclops. In the spring of 1917, the military transport ship USS Cyclops set out into the Atlantic Ocean, heading from Brazil to Baltimore. On board were 306 people and nearly 11,000 tons of manganese ore. The vessel was carrying a strategically important cargo, was following a proven route, and reported no problems. But after leaving Barbados, complete silence. The Cyclops vanished without a trace. No distress signal, no evidence of a storm, no wreckage found. This became the largest single-ship disappearance in the history of the U.S. Navy. The investigation considered numerous theories: a German attack, sabotage, overloading, cracks in the hull. However, none of them were confirmed. More than a century later, the USS Cyclops remains a true maritime mystery. Interestingly, 20 years later, 2 of its sister ships, the Proteus and the Nereus, also disappeared in the Bermuda area. Coincidence or pattern? Either way, 3 nearly identical ships vanished along the same route. The statistics are starting to form a strange picture. Tankers to nowhere. In February 1960, the tanker SS Marine Sulphur Queen, carrying sulfur, left port in Texas and headed for the East Coast. There were 39 crew members on board. The last radio contact took place on February 8th. A routine session, nothing alarming. And a day later, the vessel disappeared. Extensive searches yielded no results. Later, a single life jacket and a lifebuoy were found. That's all. The investigation showed that the ship was in poor technical condition, cracks in the hull, overloading, and an outdated design. The commission concluded that the vessel had likely broken apart in a storm, but no storm was recorded on that day. This detail made many people doubt the official version. The Marine Sulphur Queen became one of the last high-profile disappearances in the region. Its story shows how old ships carrying dangerous cargo could fall victim to gross mistakes, and how, against this backdrop, a myth grew. However, it wasn't just ships ahead. A double aviation failure. 2 passenger planes of the British airline British South American Airways, the Star Tiger and the Star Ariel, disappeared in the Bermuda area 1 year apart. The Star Tiger vanished in January 1948 and the Star Ariel in January 1949. Both aircraft were in good condition, both flights were operating under normal conditions, but both planes disappeared without sending a distress signal. In the case of the Star Tiger, the plane departed from the Azores to Bermuda. The last communication session contained no alarming information. The plane simply never arrived. The situation with the Star Ariel was almost identical. A flight from Bermuda to Jamaica, excellent weather, a smooth flight, and a sudden disappearance. Investigations in both cases yielded no concrete conclusions. No wreckage, no traces of fuel, no bodies. Theories ranged from engine failure to crew disorientation. These incidents dealt a serious blow to the reputation of the airlines. But most importantly, they cemented the image of the triangle as a point of no return. And all of this happened even before the myth itself appeared. How exactly was it born? Who came up with the triangle? Today, it's hard to imagine that until the mid-20th century, the very term Bermuda Triangle didn't exist. It only appeared in 1964, thanks to the American writer and journalist Vincent Gaddis. In the magazine Argosy, he published an article titled The Deadly Bermuda Triangle, where for the first time he combined scattered cases of disappearances into a single mystical space between Florida, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico. Gaddis claimed that anomalous phenomena occur in this area, violating the laws of physics. Although many of the incidents he mentioned were real, his interpretations of the events turned out to be embellished. The article caused a wide public response, and later he published a book where he added more evidence of the mystery. From that moment on, the term Bermuda Triangle became firmly established in the public consciousness. Interestingly, many of the cases he described were later debunked or re-evaluated. Some incidents didn't even occur within the boundaries of the triangle, but the public believed it. The media picked up the topic and it began to take on a life of its own. The myth gained momentum and soon spread around the world. But if the triangle is just a media construct, then why did disappearances still happen? Anomalies or weather? Oceanographers, meteorologists, and marine navigation experts have been studying the Atlantic for a long time. Their conclusions are unequivocal. The area commonly referred to as the Bermuda Triangle does not contain any unique natural anomalies. Nevertheless, it is extremely challenging in terms of navigation. Here, the warm Gulf Stream meets the cold currents from the North Atlantic. Fluctuations in water temperature, wind, and humidity create turbulent weather conditions. Powerful storms and waterspouts regularly form in this area. The Gulf Stream can suddenly change direction, carrying ship and plane debris hundreds of miles away. In addition, this area contains numerous shallow waters, reefs, and underwater elevations. A navigational error here can be fatal. Many disappearances occurred at a time when navigation technology was imperfect. Pilots and captains could easily lose their bearings due to the magnetic anomalies characteristic of the region. But these deviations are not mysticism, they're geophysics. The Earth's crust in this part of the world is unstable, which affects compass readings. Thus, the anomalies are more a feature of nature than something inexplicable. But the public preferred other explanations. Myth versus statistics. According to experts from Lloyd's of London, one of the world's largest insurers, the Bermuda Triangle is no different from other areas of the world's oceans in terms of the number of incidents. The U.S. Coast Guard provides similar data. In their official reports, they state that the number of disappearances in this region is consistent with the average level for other sea routes with similar traffic. The Coast Guard also emphasizes that most incidents are explained by poor weather conditions, human error, mechanical failures, and lack of proper maintenance. No investigation has uncovered any anomalous factors. Moreover, officers emphasize that they have no reason to consider the Bermuda Triangle a dangerous area. Nevertheless, statistics are often ignored by public perception. When dozens of cases are merged into a single myth, the truth recedes. Especially when books, movies, and reports get involved, fueling public interest. For every sober report, there are a dozen sensational stories. But when you carefully study specific incidents, the picture becomes clearer. The real causes of disasters. Official investigations into most disappearances in the Bermuda Triangle point to a combination of unfavorable factors: pilot errors, technical malfunctions, overloading, bad weather, all of which require no paranormal explanations. For example, the investigation into the disappearance of the Star Tiger revealed that the plane was flying at an extremely low altitude, and in the event of icing or engine failure, the pilots had no chance. In the case of the Marine, it turned out that the vessel had long needed repairs and was overloaded with sulfur, which could ignite upon contact with sea moisture. Similarly, the disappearance of the Cyclops was likely due to overloading and cracks in the hull. In each case, experts emphasize, if the equipment had been in better condition and if the crews had accurate weather information, the tragedies could have been avoided. The conclusion is clear: the main cause is human error. And this is confirmed time and again. But in the story of Flight 19, there was one detail that still gives people chills. The pilot's voice before the silence, the recordings of Flight 19's radio communications became a key element in shaping the myth. Lieutenant Taylor, the group commander, maintained radio contact until the very end. His words, recorded by the controllers, sounded alarming. "It looks like we've gone the wrong way. Everything's wrong. We can't even tell where west is." Subsequent messages became increasingly confused. He reported that both compasses had failed and the terrain beneath the plane seemed unrecognizable. One of the pilots added, "It looks like we're getting lost." The last signal was heard several hours after takeoff. These phrases became the foundation for theories about temporal anomalies, gravitational disturbances, and other fantastic phenomena. But experts believe that Taylor suffered from spatial disorientation, a condition in which a pilot loses the ability to distinguish the direction of flight. This often happens in poor visibility, especially over the ocean. Despite the rational explanation, the voice of a person disappearing into the unknown remains a powerful symbol. After all, the entire story of the triangle is built on such coincidences. Why does everything coincide? Most incidents associated with the Bermuda Triangle occurred at different times, with different types of transport and under different conditions. However, thanks to the way it is presented in the media and books, there is a sense of a clear pattern. In reality, these incidents are united by only one thing: their geographical location. But it was precisely this coincidence that gave birth to the image of a mysterious zone. Writers and journalists, starting with Vincent Gaddis, selected only those stories that fit the desired narrative. All cases that ended successfully with a landing or rescue were simply not mentioned. The classic confirmation bias was at work. People only noticed what fit the mystical picture. The name also played an additional role. Bermuda Triangle sounds powerful, like a brand. Its shape on the map and the symbolism of the 3 points gave the myth a sense of geometric completeness. Even if events took place far outside the triangle, they still became part of the story. Thus, the illusion of recurrence was reinforced not by facts but by selective information. However, scientists decided to test this in practice. What does science think? The U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, as well as the Navy and numerous scientists, conducted detailed studies of the area. Their overall conclusion: there is no evidence that any anomalous phenomena occur in the area between Florida, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico that would defy physics or technology. The research included analysis of weather conditions, current movements, magnetic anomalies, as well as the frequency of incidents. Everything indicates that this area is just an ordinary part of the Atlantic, with high levels of maritime and air traffic. Therefore, the likelihood of incidents here is proportional to the amount of traffic. Additionally, many rumors have been debunked, such as the claim that compasses cannot be used here. Scientists note that magnetic deviations do exist, but they are minor and well studied. Modern navigation systems take these features into account. Thus, from a scientific point of view, the Bermuda Triangle is not a danger zone, but a zone of rumors. Nevertheless, people continue to believe in the mystery. Why? A myth people want to believe in. Despite dozens of official debunkings, the Bermuda Triangle remains one of the most famous mystical topics of the 20th century. Why? The answer lies in human psychology. We tend to look for meaning in coincidences, especially when danger and the unknown are involved. The myth of disappearing ships and planes provides a vivid, dramatic narrative that is easy to remember and stirs emotions. The media amplified this effect. Books, documentaries, and TV shows all presented the information as an inexplicable mystery, often ignoring the boring but real explanations. This is how the enduring image of the triangle, as a place where the laws of physics don't apply, was created. For many viewers, it became part of their cultural experience. The triangle began to take on a life of its own, regardless of the truth. Even the lack of new incidents in recent decades hasn't diminished the interest. On the contrary, a mystery without an answer sparks even more imagination. And that's where the true power of the myth lies. Not in the disappearances, but in how coincidences become legend if people want to believe in them.